Okay. Hi, Shortridge. Good morning and Happy New Year. Today I'm here with Derrin Slack. I'm a senior here at Shortridge High School, and we're going to find out more about ProAct Indy, um, which Derrin Slack is the founder of. And ProAct Indy is basically a program that's focused on helping kind of needed communities and individuals, helping them get more involved with service and stuff like that. So, how are you doing today, Mr. Slack?
I'm doing well, Jared. Thank you for having me.
So, I just want to start off with a few of my own questions, and then we're going to move on to some of the audience and their questions. So, my first question is, well, first off, I read that you like to stand in the gap, quote unquote, for needed individuals and communities, and I just want to know about, like, what does that really mean to you?
Yeah, so ProAct's mission is to stand in the gap for vulnerable populations while empowering youth to actively transform their community. And so standing in the gap means, hey, if there's a gap in the community or in some vulnerable person's life, then our job is to help meet those needs for them, to fill that gap. And we do whatever it takes to do that.
So, what could some of those things actually include? So, basically, what does ProAct Indy really do?
Yeah, so it includes anything that really people need. I mean, when we think about service, ProAct's mission ultimately is to redefine what it means to serve. And oftentimes, a lot of organizations and communities believe that service is mainly about the act of service. And we want to define service as and encourage the narrative that service is more about the intentionality of building relationships. And so, how do you build relationships? You stand in the gap for people. You are vulnerable with them. You encourage them to be vulnerable as well. And because in my own experience, vulnerability and accountability and transparency has really helped open doors and open hearts. And so what we do is really we serve people based on what they need, not what we think they need.
Yeah.
And it's breaking that mold and that culture of toxic charity, which is, hey, I'm serving because it makes me feel good, not so much I'm serving because this person has asked me to come and help me to need for them and with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So, you've done a lot of traveling, and I just want to know what is one thing that you found in common between all the places you've been to, like with the people you've worked with and kind of the situations.
That's a great question, Jared. I think the common narrative, I've been all over the world serving other people. And for me, those experiences changed me and helped me grow as a man, as a husband, as a father, and as a leader. And the common thread, I would say, is that people just want to be known. People just want people to see them and peel back the layers of who they are and really take the time to be known. And so I think for us, if we're the ones that are the givers of service, I think it's important for us to understand that the people that we're serving are not unlike ourselves. So they're just like us, and they just want people to know them, to hear their stories, and to be open with them and honest. And so that's the one common thread I've seen in all the diverse communities I've been engaged
in. Okay, so what was it like when you first started ProAct, when you first started founding it, and what was the process like, and is there any like difficulties that you came across?
Well, we don't have enough time to talk about all the difficulties. But I started ProAct 10 years ago, so I was 22 years old, fresh out of college, and I just had a heart and vision to see youth and their communities interact with each other different. And so I I was an English major in college, and so I didn't know a thing about business or about nonprofit work. I just wanted to serve and do good work because I truly felt like the work that I'm doing is my calling and my purpose. And so to start, it was pure passion driving everything. And I think the skills I developed through English and a rigorous curriculum in my high school and college career really helped me apply those skills to research all I could about starting business and starting a nonprofit. And I did all the beginning paperwork myself. And so the challenges to start initially, I mean, being a young person of color, I mean, I really ran into a lot of roadblocks in helping share the vision and getting people on board and behind the vision to invest in it, to donate to our cause, and to really show them and demonstrate to them that I was serious. And so I learned that consistency, integrity, and accountability really has driven us this far, right? But ultimately, as a leader and as a founder, there comes a point where you have to come to the end of yourself. And so for me, once ProAct started to grow and people really started to understand what it is that we do a lot better, and we started with 12 kids back in 2010, and now we serve over 10,000 people. And so once we started to get traction and grow, I didn't realize how much pride and ego at one point took priority over my passion and purpose. So as founders or as individuals that are thinking about founding or starting something, always keep humility at the forefront of everything you do. Because it's so easy to get caught up in the minutia of the success, the day-to-day, that you don't realize the silent killer of pride that can sneak up on you and really be a detriment to everything. And so we had founder syndrome at one point a few years ago. And founder syndrome is just when the organization evolves around one individual, and it wasn't intentional, and it wasn't something that we wanted to happen, but it happened. And so I had to do the hard work to come to the end of myself to really make sure the organization was sustainable and still around for years to come. So that's a long answer to your question, but there's a lot more to that. And I think if people want to found something or start something, then really look closely as to what that actually means, because there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this work, no matter what type of organization or business that you go in, or industry you go into.
So you basically just answered my last question, which was going to be, what advice do you give to individuals who come across that type of block? But the next question would be, what feeling do you get out of helping so many people? And like, basically, what feeling do you get out of that you hope that more people around the world could feel?
Feeling I get is what I wish that people would get out of engaging with us and our mission is that we need to, the ultimate idea that we want to help influence or share and teach with our work is that we need to build trust by risking ourselves. People, as I mentioned earlier, they just want to be known. I mean, youth and vulnerable populations don't care how much we know. They just want to know how much we care. And so I think if we are intentional about truly getting deep with people, and I always say to my team and our volunteers that it's better to go a mile deep than to go a mile wide. Yes, we touch a lot of people each year, but I don't really track those metrics as much as the deep metrics that we want to touch, right? And that's the stories and anecdotal data that we get from the impact of people just taking time to spend with people, to know their story, know who they are. So if anything that we want people to learn that feeling is that we just need to build trust by risking ourselves. And that takes a lot of vulnerability and personal work to do that.
So,
question, Jared?
Growing up with a disability, so growing up with a disability that you once considered embarrassing and you actually overcame that feeling, what is something you want other people with disabilities to know?
With this, ask that again.
So growing up with a disability, like a speech disability that you once considered embarrassing, what is something that you want other people with disabilities to know?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, so I do have a stuttering problem, a stuttering disability or a speech impediment. And with a type of disability I have, it's invisible, right? A lot of people don't know unless they really get to know me or sit down with me. But there is a time where I physically couldn't talk sometimes. And if you know my story, it wasn't until I got to college and went on a mission trip to Botswana, Africa, where I realized that I don't stutter if I speak in front of large groups of people. And so I was able to overcome my disability. I still have a stutter. It still comes out, and some days are better than others. But it was that courage to step outside of my comfort zone and put myself out there that really has allowed me to overcome this disability. And so the advice I would give to others who have disabilities is to own it, right? Be comfortable with yourself and do the work to know yourself enough that you can have confidence in not only your abilities that you have, but don't look at your disability as an inability or a disability. It's something that can be empowering and inspiring for other people. And so own it and don't be afraid to be yourself. I think that's been a saving grace for ProAct as well, is that with having a disability like I have, you said that I considered it once embarrassing. Yes, I did. And that embarrassment really gave me low self-esteem and low sense of self-worth. So do the work internally to really know yourself and to develop confidence and to just be yourself unabashedly. And so that's the advice that I would give.
And I would also like to know more about the connection between ProAct and Shortridge.
Yeah, so Shortridge, a former principal at Shortridge, Shane O'Day, used to be on our board. And as ProAct was growing, we needed office space to really call home. And so we used to be housed at Shortridge in room 135, I believe, on the first floor. So we really enjoyed that experience, and it was awesome we got office space and then also offer programs and services to Shortridge to get you as students engaged in the community on an annual basis. And so Shortridge is near and dear to our heart. The IB model really resonates well with our model as well, to really with the education piece as well as the engagement in the community piece. And so Shortridge is a school that we hold near and dear to our hearts. So we just appreciate everything that you guys have done and will do with us.
So I think we can move on to some of the audience questions. So if you have any questions, you could type them in the chat, but I will keep going just in case we don't get any questions. But so what advice do you have for students who want to change the world? For students who want to change the world. Sorry.
Students who want to change the world. That's a great question. That's a deep question. For students who want to change the world, think about the world that's within your area of influence. And so I would always say, if you hold your arm out, that you have about 2 or 3 feet in front of you, think of that as your world, right? Influence the world that is right in arm's reach. And so that means it could be the person across the table from you, right? Influence that person. I'm a firm believer. I mentioned earlier that it's better to go a mile deep than a mile wide. And ProAct has a philosophy that, hey, if one kid shows up, that's the kid that we're going to pour our all into. And so if you want to change the world, big things have small beginnings. Start small and stay consistent. Have integrity. And then I always say the 3 steps to take is first, make a decision that you're going to do something. Second, get the right counsel. So get the right people around you that who are going to speak truth to power to you. And third, go all out.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned earlier as well that if you're trying to change something or start something, you need to be committed in that, right? And really take a hard look at who you are first before venturing out to do something for others in a way to change. Does that help answer your question or the question?
So basically kind of like a think big but start small type of situation.
Yeah, a simple way to put it.
So what advice do you have for students who want to provide service now during the pandemic?
Don't be afraid to engage with people right now. ProAct had one of its best years last year in 2020 because we were one of the few organizations that was willing to go out in the front lines to serve people that were going through it right now in vulnerable populations. And a lot of nonprofits, and some nonprofits have a similar mindset, but didn't have necessarily the resources that ProAct has to get resources to people who need them. And so be diligent and to find opportunities to still get out and engage with people. And that's not to say to disregard any safety measures or protocols that and guidelines from our state and federal authorities. But that's just to say to find those organizations that are out there in the trenches in a safe manner, right? That are reaching the people and going out. And so I would say I'm biased, but check out ProAct's website and find opportunities on there. We have a model to where we partner with other organizations who post opportunities onto our website. And those are opportunities that we have vetted and have cleared for safety. And it's a way to really get out there and serve either in person or virtually at home or after school as well. And we can also plan opportunities for you as well.
Mm-hmm. So what advice do you have for students who don't know what career path they'd like to take and aren't sure what they want to do after high school?
It's a good question. The advice I have is to just get out and meet people. Speaking for myself, I mean, I've discovered my passion just by engaging with other people and being courageous enough to take calculated risks. As a stutterer, I didn't feel comfortable going overseas in college to share stories with people that I never had met because I'd never been overseas before.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for a caring adult who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, I would have never gone to Botswana, which means that I would have never had the opportunity to discover that I don't stutter in front of large groups of people, which means I would have never started ProAct, right? And so take calculated risks to meet people and step outside your comfort zone and just try new things. Be adventurous enough to try new things that you've never done before because you'll never know what you might tap into and discover what you might be good at, right? Or what you might like. And so that's my advice I would give.
So as someone who encourages others to reach out and make relationships, why do you think it's important to authentically be you? And do you have any words of advice for people who struggle with that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's very important to be authentically you because people can relate to you better if you are authentically yourself.
Mm-hmm.
For me, and I keep talking about my stuttering, right? But it was such a very big part of my childhood that held me back. But I always thought that other people were more uncomfortable around me stuttering than I thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so no one cared at all. And I didn't know that as a kid. And still, no one ever cares. I cared more than they did.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I let that go, right, I was able to be more authentically myself. I was able to open up more once I realized no one cares that I stutter. No one, they just want me to be myself. They just want to see me. And once I tapped into that and started to understand that more, I started to realize, oh, if I'm just authentic in who I am and who I want to become, that's what people resonate with, and so other people will be encouraged to do the same thing. And you'll find that everyone has something that they are insecure about or think that other people care more about than we do. And if one person is open enough to share and point that out about themselves, then it encourages others to do the same. And that's when connections and relationships happen.
Okay, so how has the COVID-19 pandemic influenced how you run ProAct?
It has influenced us in a way. So we recently changed our model up, and we recently changed our mission. And the model that we have now, we were going to launch this past year, but the world stopped. But we thought that it was a really good opportunity to showcase how our model can be very efficient to respond to community need. So we kept forward. And so the way that we run ProAct now, and me as a leader, I just realized, and I keep going back to this, that vulnerability and transparency is the way forward. Right? The more vulnerable that we were as an organization, to even say something as simple, hey, we don't know what to do right now. Right? That phrase encouraged innovation and creativity from our staff, from our board, and from community members that really were looking to us to do something. Right? And so the way we operate now is just to be completely open, transparent with our community, with our staff, with our board, with our donors, and to really push the limit and set the bar for what innovation means around community engagement. To this day, we have not seen an organization like ProAct anywhere in the world or in the country. And so we are positioned to really set the bar for doing something really great. And so the way we operate now is just being innovative and constantly trying new things and really listening to our community to help them meet the needs that they have.
So with your experience in the way that you kind of like have this driven passion for service and helping others out, how do you incorporate that within your own family to keep that spark kind of going?
How to incorporate say that last part again?
So basically, what values do you like incorporating into your own family that you would hope that kind of keep that spark going for? Basically, how would you like to move your passion onto your kids?
Oh yeah, that's good. I like to bring my children, my family along to anything that I'm doing as much as I can. All right. Because if there's anything I want my kids to understand about the work that I do, is that I just want them to wake up every day that they've had some type of struggle or obstacle, or they can't get past something, or the day today was not as good as it could be. I want them to know that when they put their head down on the pillow, that the last thing that they might say to themselves every night is, I will try again tomorrow. I just want my kids to know that perseverance, integrity, and passion can take you far if you do it the right way with the right people.
And how did you use resources in the beginning to get the word out about your organization?
Research, is that what you said?
How did you use resources in the beginning?
What's the word? Research.
Resources.
Resource? I'm having a hard time hearing that.
Resources, sorry.
I'll repeat the question since there's an audio problem and I know he can hear me. It was, how do you use your resources? How did you use your resources in the beginning to get the word out about your organization?
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry about that, Derrin. So I have very little resources at the beginning. So after college, I was a server at Scotty's Brew House for 2 years. And I worked my butt off, like two shifts a day, to gain the startup costs for ProAct. So half my tips were going towards my son, who I had at the time because I was a single dad. And then the other half went towards the startup costs for ProAct. And so the resources, that's monetary resources. And then I use friends and family as volunteers to help drive the mission forward at first. And then to get the word out, simply just social media, right? Every Saturday, when we first started, ProAct was doing a service project with a small group of youth every single Saturday. And just that consistency and the people that we met in the community, people started to catch on after so long. Oh, this kid is serious, right? And so I don't think that there's a secret sauce. Just leverage those resources, however small or however big they are, and do it so in a resourceful way. The first grant we ever got was $2,500, and we made that $2,500 stretch for an entire year, right? So just use your resources wisely, and that takes good counsel. That takes just consistency to really help people understand, okay, you're serious about something, and the word gets out mainly by word of mouth. So that question. Yeah. Sorry about that, Jared, at the beginning.
That's fine. So as a last question, because I do think that we're running out of time, basically, what is your favorite memory of Shortridge?
What's my favorite memory of Shortridge? There's a video on our YouTube page with Shortridge students and Eli Lilly and Company serving 5 different sites in one day. And so that's one of my favorite projects, my favorite memories, because we got the entire Shortridge High School out with about 115 Eli Lilly employees to do great work on a day of service. And this ended up being Indy Due Day, and we installed 2 parks, we built a playground, and we did we did an outdoor classroom at one of our sites. It was just an awesome time to see youth and adults working side by side in tandem for the good of the community. And so that's one of our favorite projects that we've done with you all, and we'd like to do more of that too.
So I do believe that that's all the time we were given. So I'm just going to wrap up. I want to thank you for coming to this live event and letting me ask you a few questions about ProAct.
No problem. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Jared. And you did a great job too.
Thank you.
Fantastic job.
So then I don't think we have any more questions, so that's it. Thank you.